Harrick and the other 2 squads were holding precariously to the small knoll near the bottom of the finger. Savage, so a kid named Savage is out there with Harrick's platoon, and he ends up running a lot of stuff, and you'll find that out. But here we start hearing a little bit of him right now. Savage teamed up with McHenry's squad, which was pinned to the ground. Harrick was with that squad. Sergeant Zalin's squad was off to the left rear. Savage checked on his men when he tied up with McHenry. He knew that Spec 4 Robert M. Hill, M79 Grenadier, was no longer with them. He got killed in there somewhere. He had his M79 and a .45 caliber pistol, and he was firing both at the same time. The 23-year-old Hill came from Starkville, Mississippi. And here's Sergeant Savage talking, explaining some more. Back to the book. The enemy was past the machine gun before it ever quit firing. I could hear Sergeant Hurdle down there cursing. Even over the firefight, I heard him. He was famous for that. Motherfucker, son of a bitch. I could hear him hollering that down there when they threw grenades on him. Hurdle, 36, was from Washington, D.C. Barenbaum, 24, was a native of New York City. PFC Donald Roddy, 22, hailed from Ann Arbor, Michigan. The 3 of them died in a hail of rifle fire and enemy grenades. The enemy down below turned Sergeant Hurdle's M60 around and began using it on the Americans on the knoll. So that causes all kinds of confusion. You can tell the difference between different types of weapons by the way they sound when they shoot, and when someone starts shooting a friendly weapon at you, it causes a lot of confusion. And the M60 is a beast of a weapon, belt-fed machine gun. And it's when I got in the SEAL teams, that was the machine gun that we used, was the M60 machine gun, and it's a devastating weapon. Back to the book. The enemy, more than 150 strong, now attacked the knoll from 3 sides, north, south, and east. And soldiers on both sides were falling. Lieutenant Harrick ran from trooper to trooper trying to get a defense organized. An enemy volley cut across Harrick, his radio operator specialist, John R. Stewart, and the artillery recon sergeant, Sergeant John T. Brown, wounding all 3. Harrick and Brown seriously. Stewart took a single bullet through the leg. Harrick radioed Bravo Company Commander John Herron and told him he had been hit, and he was turning the command of the platoon over to Sergeant Carl Palmer. Harrick then gave explicit instructions to his men to destroy the signals codes, redistribute the ammunition, and call in artillery, and if possible, make a break for it. Herron says, I give Harrick all the credit in the world for pulling that platoon together so they could make their stand. So should we all. Savage and Zalin paint a clear picture of a green young lieutenant who did a superb job in a hailstorm of enemy fire. His platoon stopped a very large North Vietnamese unit clearly heading down to join the attack on the landing zone. I long ago concluded that the very presence of this platoon so far to the northwest confused the enemy commander as to exactly where we were and how far we had penetrated in all directions, and thus helped us as the battle built. Sergeant Savage recounts the final moments of Henry Harrick's life. He was lying beside me on the hill, and he said, if I have to die, I'm glad to give my life for my country. I remember him saying that. He was going into shock, hit in the hip and in a lot of pain. He didn't live long. He died early in the fight next to a little brush pile. Spec 4 Charles R. Lowe's, 22, of Mobile, Alabama, was the new platoon medic. He joined the platoon only a few days earlier. Lieutenant Harrick was kneeling when hit. He had a bullet wound to the hip. He told me to go help the other wounded. Yeah, we have to remember that this guy Harrick is like 22, 23-year-old, fresh out of him. He might even be 21. And he made that majorly offensive move and pursued and got out of touch. But what Hal Moore is saying, hey, that confused the enemy. Even though it confused the friendlies too, it confused the enemy as well. So there's some good that came out of it.